OkanaganZ.com/OZ joining me as he does each week. And David, this is, every person I've talked to in this podcast and my other podcasts, we start the same way. We are living in such a strange time right now.
Are we ever? Yeah, it's, the whole thing of COVID-19 started off as an inconvenience to us stoners and not being able to find the right materials to clean our bongs and vaporizers. But let me tell you, it's no laughing matter now. This is definitely something that's a big deal, and I hope that everyone out there is staying healthy and heeding the advice of the health authorities.
Yes, for sure. And like every other industry right now, the cannabis industry is affected by COVID-19. Specifically, when we talk about the retail level, Fire and Flower sent out an email about several of their stores being closed right now. A lot of other stores have reduced hours, and that's just in Alberta. BC is no different, and the rest of the country, I'd imagine.
Mm-hmm. These are frontline workers, and hats off to them. Anyone out there that's helping people stock up or get whatever they need, as we're being told to stay indoors. And as COVID-19 spreads, starting to raise questions about whether or not it's prudent for cannabis retailers to close their doors at this point and maybe rely on delivery services. Canada's biggest weed company, they say yes. On Tuesday, Cannabis Growth announced that it was temporarily closing all of its corporate-owned retail stores amid this pandemic. They're following the guidance that's being given by those public health bodies. And Cannabis Growth executive made the decision to temporarily close all of its Tokyo Smoke and Tweed retail locations across Canada, of which there are 23. They have stores in Newfoundland, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and the Tweed Visitor Center in Smith Falls, Ontario is closing as well. And their rationale is that they want to do their part to flatten the curve by limiting social interactions. And for them, that meant a shift to e-commerce. Not every retailer has that ability. And despite appeals from our Prime Minister to stay home, there are other cannabis retailers that are not following suit, closing their doors. Our provincial cannabis retail store here in BC is BC Cannabis Stores. They said that they are going to remain open. They put into place a lot of policies to try and keep customers safe and keep employees safe. That includes cleaning and disinfecting frequently touched areas like door handles and cash register countertops, pin pads, those sniff pods that are being used. Spirit Leaf also is staying open. The one here in the Okanagan, well, there are 4, but one of those locations has removed those sniff pods because to them, that's a really that's an area that's touched all the time, and they want to make sure that they're doing their best to keep their customers and their employees safe.
Yeah, and a lot of the retail outlets have removed paper products that can't be disinfected and things like that. So they are taking, the ones that are staying open are taking enormous steps to make sure that the staff and the customer is protected. I was speaking with John Carl from the Alberta Cannabis Council earlier in this episode, and there was even one store that just had an employee outside opening the doors for all of the customers, so they didn't even have to touch doorknobs, which is something that we weren't thinking about 3 weeks ago. Now, every time I touch a doorknob or a door handle, I'm thinking about who has touched it before me right now. The one thing, David, is I worry about the cannabis stores closing. And then what happens? People just go to the black market. And, if they don't know somebody in the black market, then you don't know what you're getting. What I think should be happening is cannabis, like alcohol, should be able to be delivered at this time. There's restaurants, the AJLC in Alberta is allowing restaurants that are licensed to deliver liquor with their meals. And I think, because listen, people are at home, they're isolated. Cannabis could be a big help to a lot of people right now, but either the stores are closed in their area or they can't get to them. I think this is where cannabis delivery, should be fast tracked so, people can, especially people that use this for medicine.
This is really changing the way that the world is working, and looking at proactive ideas like allowing delivery service is exactly where we should be going. Numerous private retailers are staying open and reporting a big spike in sales as people are stocking up. Like you said, this is medicine. And San Francisco is one city that's declared cannabis stores to be an essential service
Right.
among all this. Ordering online is an option, but again, you have to go out to collect the package. Canada Post has made changes to its delivery methods as a result of this, and it's not going to be delivering packages to the door anymore that require proof of identity or a signature. And we get it. Canada Post wants to do its best to protect its employees. So now what's going to happen is if you're ordering cannabis in BC, which is delivered by Canada Post, you got to go to the post office to pick it. So for those who are in isolation because they're sick, or they may be, or they've come back from travel, there's not really much as far as they have for options at this point.
And there's a lot of places that are only, or not a lot of places, there are some places that are only allowing purchases of under $100. So you can only use the tap function. Cash is being taken out of the equation in a lot of transactions. So there is a lot being done, which is obviously socially responsible to make sure that the employees and the customers and all of us are healthy.
Yeah, absolutely, and we should continue along those lines too. We want to make sure that we're healthy. That's something that we've been saying from the start, just in reference to cannabis, is that it's not only to get high, but it's to get healthy, and I stand by that.
100%. Speaking of money changing hands and cash flow, which is cash is out of the equation right now in a lot of transactions, but there could be a disruption depending on how long this goes in the cannabis industry.
Yeah, cash isn't something that cannabis producers seem to have a lot of these days, and that is definitely something that could become a problem. I recently did a story on Valence, and they're an extraction company in Kelowna. And the CEO of Valence made a statement in an investor call in which he said, cash is king, and at this point, LPs don't really have a lot of it. Now, that was before COVID became a thing, but it translates here. And the analyst Graham Krangler from 8 Capital, he made the point, too, that having cash on hand is going to help companies get through this escalating crisis. They need to have some firm footing to negotiate with suppliers, because basic supplies that are needed in this industry are becoming stark. Protective gear like masks, those full body suits, they are something that employees who are producing cannabis products have to wear. And they're becoming shorter in supply as they're going out to first responders and those who are in the medical community in order to protect them as they're helping people. Now, this analyst also says that companies like Canopy Growth or Kronos Group or Apria, they have some of the strongest cash positions in the industry, and it's going to be a little bit easier for them to deal with this. Unfortunately, for a lot of other LPs, they're going to see those resources, a little bit more difficult to come by. And we're also looking at the potential shipping delays, factory shutdowns in China, and that's where a lot of the vape hardware is being produced. So that could lead to shortages when it comes to those kinds of products. On the bright side, I guess, if there is such a thing right now, we're not going to see, or not likely to see at this point, any real shortages on flower, because the regulatory environment is such that it's generally produced here, and hopefully we won't see a disruption in the supply chain on that end of things.
David Wiley from the OZ joining us for This Week in Cannabis News. You can find them, of course, at okanaganz.com/OZ. And, one of the fascinating in a bad way, sort of like can't turn away from a car accident sort of metaphor, is what is going on with Aurora Cannabis over, I guess, you can look at a year ago. The stock has dropped, and their former CEO, Terry Booth, sold over 12 million shares in the last couple of days. Strange things going on with Aurora Cannabis right now.
And boy, oh boy, it's in only a short period of time, we've really started to see the rise and fall of some of these cannabis giants. And, in this environment right now, boy, it's worse. Everything is falling. The Dow and the TSX are just record losses right now. And as people get spooked, it falls further. Now, Aurora Cannabis shares have actually plummeted from over $13 a share about a year ago to under a cent now. And the company's founder, director, and former CEO, Terry Booth, he's sold nearly 12.2 million shares over the last few days, and that's 2/3 of his position in the company's equity. So he announced his retirement from the CEO position in February, and the management says that this share sale is actually part of a previously announced transition plan. But boy, does it ever send a message to investors to see that much stock unloaded in this kind of a market. And they're not the only ones. There's another canary in the coal mine, as there always is, and that comes in the form of Tilray. Now, if you could believe this, in 2018, Tilray stock was worth $150 US a share, and today it's trading for $250.
Wow!
What a fall! And, overall, cannabis stocks have been losing investors money for a while now, and COVID-19 is not helping matters. So hopefully we won't see too much more. But honestly, is there a basement? I remember a couple weeks back you asked me how far it might fall, and I said I don't know. I still don't know. You think that you hit bottom and there's yet another floor below it.
Well, yeah, and that the floor that just dropped out is COVID-19, right? You think you're at the bottom, and then a pandemic, a global pandemic, is upon us, and it's not. Cannabis is not bulletproof like any other industry right now, and this is just kicking them when they're down almost. It's and then there's talk about the Canadian-wide stimulus from the government and whether cannabis industry is going to be included in that. I mean, it just seems like the cannabis industry is getting so many lefts, they're begging for a right.
I saw on Twitter that BDC was saying basically that they don't serve the cannabis industry.
Yeah.
We're talking about a legal industry here in Canada that needs help. There are a lot of people that work in this industry, that invest in this industry, that rely on it. And it's unfair just to leave them out of any kind of aid at this point.
For sure. The one thing that we can all do during this time as cannabis consumers is be smart about it. I mean, you're not going to sit there and pick up a drink and share a drink or a cup or a Kleenex with somebody else right now. So don't share your joints or your bongs or your pipes or your vapes. And I know cannabis is a very social culture, and we're going to get back to a giant joint circle at some point, but it just can't happen right now. We have to be responsible as cannabis users.
We do. And the Ontario Cannabis Store was definitely beating on this message, saying don't share joints, vapes, pipes, bongs, because it does. COVID-19 spreads through respiratory droplets that are released when you speak, when you cough, when you sneeze, and also left on shared items like forks, glasses, or joints and vapes. So also we're being told to limit our group exposure, to wash our hands very often. And all this stuff tracks. It's pretty common sense. The Ontario Cannabis Store also says that if you're sick, don't smoke. It's been reported that COVID-19 causes infections in the nose, throat, and lungs. And smoking cannabis, just like smoking anything, can impact your lung health. So if you're feeling sick, it's good to take a break from smoking or vaping. There are other options with Cannabis 2.0 products out there right now. And as far as the retail level goes, there's good advice coming out of Spirit Leaf, and that's to call ahead or check their menu ahead and make sure that they know you're coming in. They can put your products aside, and that way you have to spend less time in the store. And you get in, get what you need, and get out.
Yeah, and there's several retail outlets that use that. Fire and Flower has the fast lane. They're actually giving a discount, I think, on Fast Lane users. I've used it plenty of times. It's easy. You go on their website, find your location, pick your product, order it. You walk in there and it's ready. You even get to skip the line. It's like, I use it regularly, so I encourage people to use those sort of things, particularly right now when we want to spend less time interacting with each other, unfortunately, and less time dealing. So you can get in, get out, dealing with other people and in person, I mean. So you get in, get out, use your tap, whatever it is, less contact, the better. Now, this is crazy times, and it's very scary. And we've talked about a lot of stories that have, unfortunately, a negative connotation to them because of what's going on. Let's end with a positive, in that drinks are very, very close to hitting store shelves.
Mm-hmm. We've been excited about this for a while,
Yes.
and it's good to see, especially with that advice that if you're feeling sick, don't smoke.
Right.
Well, hey, you got drink options now. So those long-awaited fizzy drinks are becoming available across the country. I've already seen people picking up a few. You've got Every Brands right now. Valence has a drink out in Ontario Base Camp. And now Tweed says that its Houndstooth and soda are being stocked across the country. So they began shipping to provincial boards and retailers nationwide late last week. And I'm excited to see these. They're interesting. So basically, they left the distribution center on March 11th, and Cannabis says that the availability, unfortunately, at this point in time, might be a little low. It's a rollout of an early product, but you will start to see them through your online stores and your brick and mortar retail. Like we've said before, check the menu online before you go. If you're looking for something and you want to find it, check online. See if you can find it first. There's no sense in showing up at a store looking for them or going all over and shopping around the place. That's not what we want to be doing right now. But as far as the details on these, the Tweed Houndstooth ones that are coming out are the high CBD, and that's generally what we're seeing at the moment. We're seeing more of the high CBD drinks and not so much the THC ones, but it won't take long for those ones to roll out too, and definitely something that I'm excited for. We're also starting to see some other edible products come through, chocolate truffles. Boy, yeah. I haven't got my hands on those.
I did.
But I have not seen so many positive reviews for a cannabis product as these are getting. So something worth trying. We're all stuck inside now, right? So why not get out there and experiment with some new products and see, you pass the time.
I had some of the Edison bites, and it was ridiculously good, and it was and the product, it worked too. It was really, really good. So I encourage people to check some of that stuff out for sure. The drinks are I'm really interested to see what comes out of them. Is it going to be in a bottle and a can? What's going to be the THC percentage and things like that. I know we've heard a lot about fast onset. So I'm really encouraged to see that. I know THC tea has been making its way through, and we'll get THC drinks in a little bit. But I think the drinks are going to be a real interesting one, especially with spring, summer coming up.
Yeah, great idea to sit out on your patio and have a sip. I've seen them mostly in cans right now.
Okay.
And that was one of the big problems early on, was that they were having trouble with the can and how it interacted with with the THC that was in it. So it looks like they've got that sorted. I make my own kombucha and add some simple cannabis syrup to it, and it's great. So I've been drinking my own home brew drinks myself, and based on my experience with them, I just can't wait to taste what the professionals are doing.
Oh, that's really good, and that's a really good point about doing stuff yourself. You can go buy cannabis oil and chocolate bar, and it's going to be a lot cheaper in the long run, and you have edibles homemade at your house. If you don't want to keep going back to the store to buy pre-made chocolates, which are delicious, buy a jar of oil and go buy some chocolate bars from your convenience store, and you have homemade edibles.
And there's no 10 milligram limit to your homemade goodies, that's for sure.
Yes, yes,
Sky's the limit.
Awesome stuff, David. Well, we'll end on a high note, pardon the pun, with the drinks, and hopefully they're on their way. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Hopefully you and yours are staying safe, and, day by day, we'll get back to normal at some point as long as we're smart about it.
Yeah, you bet. And to you and all the listeners out there, all the best to everyone in these tough times.